Welcome back to the ABC of EDC with me, Rick Flatt, your host through everything, Everyday Carry. I recently had the chance to spend some time with a couple of watches that have been on my dream list. Firstly, a Rolex Explorer 2 Polar, one of my faves, and then a Tudor Black Bay Chrono, love a chronograph. Having spent some time with both of these marks, seen how they perform, how they are ergonomically and aesthetically, long word settings, and just kind of live with them for a bit. I'd done an individual review, first of the Rolex and secondly of the Tudor. And I thought it'd be good while they're still here on the channel, let's get a little comparison going. Because one's $8,000, one's $4,500. Is there that much difference between them? What are the pros and cons of spending the extra money, going with the more well-known and respected Rolex over Tudor? Is there any? Let's find out. It's kind of the first time we've done a video like this, a comparison between a brand and another brand, but they're not so different. They're actually kind of in the family, very well related to one another. We've reviewed both of these watches separately on the channel. Firstly, the Rolex Explorer 2, which we did a little while ago, and also the Tudor Black Bay Chrono. But today we're going to look at these two watches and compare them because they're both part of the same kind of family, really. Rolex is the big bro, the daddy. Tudor is obviously the kind of little brother, little sister, little cuz over there in the corner doing his thing. We're going to look at the difference in their spec, in maybe the finishing, performance, how do they wind, how legible are they, what's the finishing like, what are some of the things that one does well over the other or vice versa. Just generally kind of give them a little bit of a battle. But the real question for me, I think, is going to be over price. And that's because I'm a penny pincher. There's a little bit of Scottish in me. There's a little bit of Irish in me. I'm a little bit penny pinching, you know what I mean? Penny pinch, penny pinch settings, you know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. But this is £8,100, 8,100 of your English pounds. This is $5,550, I think. So there's a little bit of cheddar between them, you know what I mean? Does the Rolex go far enough out front to earn that next extra $3,000? Do you really feel it, or is the Tudor the bargain of the century in comparison? We're going to find out. They both do slightly different things. One's a GMT, one's a chrono, but obviously they're both steel tall watches from a brand, or both brands, that are very kind of well regarded. So let's have a quick look. Let's do basic specs first. Let's just go back over this Rolex Explorer. So Rolex Explorer 2, this is reference number 226570, 42mm diameter, a 12.5mm thick, and that's going to be an interesting measurement, that thickness there. It is in oyster steel, which is kind of Rolex's kind of steel stuff, I guess. This is the polar dial, as applied markers, chromolite lume. Only 100 meters of water resistance, which surprised me. I actually said in my review, I think this was COSC certified, but I got that wrong. It's actually chronometer certified, which is Rolex's, I guess, a little jankier kind of way of talking about that. The timing, I guess it's their own in-house. I guess some would say it's better. Some would say I don't know. I don't know enough to know. It's got a I think it's a double lock system there on the crown there. It's got the little sign that tells you that. It's really hard to tell what all these different meanings mean on crowns. There is a kind of little diagram from Rolex, but there's a diagram from everyone else. Anyway, it's got some sort of double gasket sort of situation. This has the caliber 3285 on it. It is the actual diameter of the actual dial is 28.5mm, 70 hours power reserve, auto, obviously 4 hertz, 31 joules. Yeah, it's a lovely thing, man. There's no case back. Obviously, we were in a Rolex situation, so we just got bland, sterile case back. But they're the basic stats of the Explorer 2. Let's roll over now to my guy, the Tudor. So here we have a case which is actually 41mm. Now the thickness, and this is where things get interesting, the thickness of this bad boy is 14.6 thick, so sheer little fatty, man. This is the caliber MT5813. This is COSC certified, waterproof to 200 meters, sapphire crystal, just like the Rolex. Date there at 6 o'clock. They're the basic stats. Screw down crowns on both of the pushers there. Again, sterile case back. kind of riveted bracelet here, which is very, very nice. My friend actually keeps this, my friend who owns this, keeps this pretty much, I've seen it most of the time, on a NATO, and it wears very well on a NATO. It could also go on any other strap. Both of these watches, to be honest, are fair strap monsters, but I put it back on this bracelet for a review just so we could do a bracelet to bracelet comp on these two, just to see what differences there are between Tudor and Rolex as far as their kind of finishing on bracelets with these models. Let me talk a little bit about my preferences here with these two watches. Now, this is going to be entirely personal. I think all watch reviews are, outside of like basic stats. Do you know what I mean? Like how long the power reserves are. But these two are both 70 hours power reserve, so there's no difference there. Outside of bold facts, like bold fact is the Black Bay Chrono, 200 meters water resistance. There's no way, no argument can be made to say that's worse, or sorry, that's not better than 100 meters. You've got 100 meters here on the Rolly, which is, you know, good enough for everyone, let's face it. But 200 meters is more good enough for everyone. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just better. So 70 hours power reserve, they're both the same. But then you've got 200 meters here, 100 meters there. 200 meters is better. Let's just face it. That's just the facts. Size-wise, we got a 42 or a 41. You don't really notice it. To be honest with you, I would say on wrist, the Chrono kind of feels about the same. I guess that's just to do with layout, to do with maybe that black bezel there. I don't know. It's just, they don't feel like there's much difference between them, you know? I actually prefer, and this is totally personal preference, I prefer the way that the Black Bay wears, but that just might be a personal thing. You know what I'm saying? Moving on to thickness, obviously we have got the, what is it, 12.5? Let me just double check. Got a little document here. This 12.5. And this is 14.6. And I think there's no way, and I'm honest when I wear it, there is no way that you don't notice that thickness difference, man. The Tudor, she chunky. She chunky, man. Like, she a big girl, man. She a Lizzo watch. Do you know what I mean? Like, she a bit of a heifer, man. And my personal preference with watches, I prefer watches in the 40 to 41, which would put me here. 42 is maybe a little big, and in my review I did say I'd like it if this is just a bit smaller, but that's more to do with the case shape, I guess, than just the sheer size. But I do like my watches thin. I do. So if the Explorer was 41 like the Tudor, I'd love it. But if the Tudor was 12.5 like the Rolex, instead of this chunky 14.6, I would prefer that. How do they feel in hand? Let me just slip off the now legendary Casio Duro, obviously the best watch on this table right now. How do they actually feel in hand and on wrist? Well, I've got to tell you, man, this Rolex is a treat to wear. It feels good on hand. That clasp, I can't tell you how good this clasp is, how nice it feels every time you open it and shut it. It's just always there. There's never a problem. It just, I don't know, something about it. On wrist, lovely. My preference though, on wrist, as far as when I look down, what gives me more happiness, it's the Tudor. When I look down and see this little bad boy on my wrist, I just love it. Maybe that's because I'm more of a sucker for the kind of panda chrono style of this watch over the Explorer, but just something about it, man. I just like it. And this clasp from Tudor, although nice, like it's got, again, it doesn't feel bad at all. It's not as nice. It doesn't perform as well. It's not somehow as ergonomic to use as that Rolex clasp. So as far as picking it up and putting it on your hand, I love it when I look on the end of my arm and I see the Explorer. But as far as putting it on and off, that moment, something about the Rolex, it's just simple elegance, man. It just does it. So out of these two clasps, my kind of money goes with the Rolly, man. It just does. It just does what it says on the tin. This is nice. Don't get me wrong. This is better than, 90% of class on other watches. But when we're comparing the two, the Rolly has that classic elegance, simplicity, but does it just brilliantly. Like I say, Rolex is the pinnacle, right, for so many people. So many companies have just copied this, right? But no one has done it as well. For me, first point of personal preference, I love the diameter of the Tudor. I love the thinness of the Rolex. I love the clasp of the Rolex. As far as finishing goes, I can't see anything in it, man. As far as case finishing, fit of that bracelet, obviously they've got different approaches here. We got the classic kind of Rolex bracelet here, polished on the edges, brushed in the middle. Just doing it, mate. Just doing it and doing it well. Do you know what I mean? Just that oyster bracelet, mate. Just that Rolex oyster bracelet. It just does its thing. Lovely. But over here, this riveted Tudor. Again, it's just a totally different approach to what the Explorer's doing. And I love it equally. I do. And as far as finishing, I've got to be honest with you, hand in hand, I'm not feeling any difference between them. Any difference at all in fit and finish. That's just honest, man. What am I saying, man? I'm waffling here. There's not a lot between them. There's not a lot as far as fit and finish, polish, all those details, the application of the markers and the hands. There's nothing in it. What does it feel like when I wind these suckers? So let's undo the Explorer first. When I roll it, wrong way. When I wind this, it's funny. It's quiet and it feels. I don't know. It feels like a clap. Let me put it on the microphone, maybe. Try and pick it up. I don't know if you'll be picking it up. It feels smooth, but not as smooth as I thought it would be. I spoke to my friend about this. He said, "Yeah, Rolex are quite agricultural." He said, which I think a little bit harsh. It's quite agricultural, and I don't know if it's agricultural, but it's not certainly as smooth as I thought. But you wind it, and there's something going on there. It's kind of doing its thing, but it doesn't feel maybe as buttery as I thought it was going to. When you move over to the Tudor, unscrew that lovely Tudor rose marked crown, and you start to, this one, my gosh, you feel a lot more resistance. And again, obviously we're dealing with a different movement here. We've got what have we got here? We've got a mechanical column wheel chronograph, right? Is it column wheel? I don't know. I have to check with my friend. I don't know if it's column wheel, but it's that mechanical chronograph situation. You feel a lot more like you're moving a lot more mechanism as you turn it, but it's no less pleasurable. No less pleasurable at all. When it comes to the dials of these watches, it's really an unfair comparison because other than being white and other than having, hands, they're doing different things, man. You got the Explorer there with that polar white dial, a little dash of orange where it says Explorer 2, the little dash of orange on the GMT hand, those black surrounded hands. And I couldn't really confirm this anywhere, but I'm told that the markers on the Rolex Explorer 2 are gold, but they're coated in black, which seems crazy to me. And I don't know if that's true, man. Someone confirm in the comments or something, but who knows, man. I mean, I don't know why they did that. I guess you go the extra mile. I would never know. But I heard some reviewers that I really trust say these are gold markers, but if you get the white dial, then that white gold is covered in black. Whatever, man. I don't know. Anyway, so the Explorer is doing its thing, man. It's a four-hander, very, very simple. But you go to the Tudor. The white is not the same white. It's not polar. It's more, I guess, of a creamy white, more of a mayo white or something. And then you've got those two registers there. The one on the left, obviously, is your ticking seconds. The one on the right is there when you use the chronograph movement. And it's a different situation. Do you know what I mean? We've got 5 hands, man. So we're going from a 4-hand GMT to a 5-hand chrono. We've got a date function at the bottom there at 6 o'clock as opposed to 3 o'clock on the Explorer. It's just doing different things. You've got the tachymeter around the outside, which is in black, which adds a whole different aesthetic. Obviously, the registers on this model are in black. This reference are in black, so that adds a whole different vibe. So all you can do, instead of comparing them like for like, because they are not alike, you have to compare just the finishing. And for me, the Tudor looks more classy. The Tudor to me is something about the smaller Tudor font. There's something about the size of those registers. There's something about the size of those markers. The Explorer feels more like a child drew it. The Tudor feels more like a grown-up engineer designed it. I can't explain it. It's classy. There's something about, and I understand that like the Explorer is so legible. When you're out and about with the Explorer and you look down, you can never fail to know what the time is, to know where the GMT is pointing as well. The Tudor is a little bit more troublesome at points to read. It's not an instant read, but when you take the time to really look at the Tudor, it just has, for me, and again, this is going to be personal, a more pleasing aesthetic. I enjoy it. Just something about it, man. Mate, I don't know what it is. It feels more retro somehow. The Explorer feels more modern, even though, you know, the watch has been around for a long time now. The Chrono just feels, I don't know, there's something more retro, more classic about it. Maybe it's slightly creamy, that little dash of red on the Chrono hand, the thinness of that Chrono hand. It feels more delicate in some ways, even though it's still very tally. Oh no, man. So, what have we done here? Size comparison. I think overall the Rolex is going to win that because of the thinness, and there's a mil between them, so it doesn't matter. Finishing, they're both equal. Bracelet, I think the bracelets, though equal, the Rolex wins on clasp. Actual, and this is totally personal, totally like my own preference. The way it looks, for me, the Black Bay's going to win it. Performance-wise, I think they're the same, but they're both trying to do different things, really. So let's talk about price. So the Rolex Explorer 2, 8,100 quid, right? The Tudor Black Bay Chrono, 5,550. If I had 10 grand by accident, and someone said, look, you know, we're going to go out for dinner, we're going to go to a show, we're going to do a whole bunch of stuff, and we're going to have enough money left that you can either buy a Rolex or a Tudor, what are you going to go for? I'm buying the Tudor. I'm buying the Tudor. I just am. And that's really, I guess, an unhelpful conclusion because it's based entirely on my preference. Some of you might go, you're crazy, bro. If you're a Chrono hater, you might be, you're crazy. If you're just like kind of a name brand hound, you might be like, I'm just Rolex all day because it's a Rolex. But my thing is, yeah, it's a Rolex. And the Tudor's doing something different, and I like it. Maybe it's an underdog thing, you know, other than David Beckham being on all their kind of advertising, which they should get rid of straight away. He's not the guy they want, you know what I mean? It's just, I love Tudor, mate. They're just doing it, and it's an underdog thing. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure what it is. I don't get me wrong. I love lots of Rolexes. I would never sniff at a Daytona. There are other Rolexes I really like. Root beer, all sorts of other references, models. But this Tudor, mate, just kind of fallen in love with it. Really like it. I really do. Out of these two, yeah, Tudor all day. So I don't know if this has been helpful at all. At the end of the day, if you're in this position where you're comparing, do I buy an Explorer 2 or do I buy a Tudor Black Bay Chrono? Let me tell you, you won. Right? In the game of life, you won. You're doing well. That this is not a problem, man. And if this is, you know, not a difficult problem to have, man. Either way, you're getting yourself a beautiful watch that's well made, well engineered, well executed, and will sit you in good stead. How do I feel in the overall question of this keeping it in the family review? Is the Rolex worth the extra money over a Tudor? I would say definitely. Definitely. There are some things you're going to get with a Rolex that are more than the Tudor because it's designed that way, right? It's just designed that way. But if you buy the Tudor, you're still getting a fantastic watch, and in some cases, like this case, I think you're getting a better all-round watch. But it's going to be preference. I don't know if this review has helped anyone, man, but I tell you what, man, I've enjoyed wearing both of these watches and pretending I'm rich. But anyway, now we're back to the Casio Duro. So what are you going to do? That's life. I got to give these two watches back. I'm going to go and cry in the corner. This has been the ABC of EDC, and I've been Rick Flat. I hope this has been helpful. Until next time, carry what you love. Later.